Okay, we're live. It is 12:11 in the morning. I'm a little late. Sorry. Um, let's do this first. Actually, it's 10/14/2023, and tonight we're going to go over some of these week's cases. Been a short week because of Columbus Day, but it's been a regular week for me. But for some people, it's been a short week. Here's my disclaimer because I'm going to be going over true crime cases, and some of it may not be suitable for everybody. So let me play an intro, and I'll be right back. Okay, so we are live. I'm not sure what I want to do first, but I think I'm going to go here first. Let's go to this happened this week here. Um, Let me pull this up. This is the closing arguments in the Boy in the Box case here. For those that don't know about this, apparently this kid here was adopted by these parents, and they couldn't control him. So they basically built a room in a garage for him that had very little. So the state filed a complaint against the parents, especially the father. The state delivers their closing argument in Boy in a Box trial, telling the jury that Tim Ferreter had other options and locking his adopted son in a room because of his behavior issues. And this has been a pretty contentious case here. So let's go over the closing arguments here from the prosecution. Sound, please.
Vulnerable because of past trauma. And instead of doing anything productive to assist that child, they did the worst possible thing you could do.
Hey guys. Hey Necessary, how are you? Hey Jinx. Jinx is awesome. Hello Jinx. Hello Honeybee. Hello Jinx again. Just going over some of the cases of the week. Sorry I'm late. I got a late start tonight. Sorry. How is everybody? Oh, everybody's up late. That's cool. That's so awesome. After a while, Crocodile. Thank you, guys. So I don't know if you guys have heard about this case, but I'm going to go over the closing arguments and go over the jury and then verdict and then.
Now, beyond the direct testimony, the photographs in this case, we have hours of Ring camera because the defendant recorded every single moment in that room.
And then we'll probably go over some of the Delphi crap. So later, alligators. You leaving already, honeybee?
And like we said, it's not a continuous stream. It's 1 minute videos related to action. But we have hours of the treatment, of the confinement to prove, to corroborate alone.
You want to take this thing to the next level? Let's do it. Let's do it in Florida too. Let's do it in Florida too. Let's go.
I don't know how many people in the chat have had teenage. Who's not feeling good? Who's feeling off? Honeybee, you had my shot. You had shots today. What kind of shots? Well, I hope you feel better. Have a good night, honeybee. Yeah, I don't know. Like I had teenagers too. This preacher right here behind this guy is absolutely hysterical. I don't know who that is, but
And so you don't have to take it's extreme that it was dehumanizing. We have.
is it the first COVID shot that she had, or was it just a booster? Because I know I felt like dog shit after the second one. Everybody told me after the first shot that I'd feel like shit, but for me it was the second one, and then the third one I didn't feel like dog shit. But I know a lot of people get the first shot. If they got the first shot, then yeah, I went. Let's see, we went almost 2 years without COVID, and then we got it last March here, all of us. It's terrible. Yeah, those shots sound awful. Yeah, my son had the Johnson & Johnson one, and that was really bad.
Have the direct evidence of his actions. This is not a concerned father trying to.
So this is the father. This is the wife here. I just don't know who this preacher guy is, but he's pretty funny.
Make a reasonable correction to a behavioral issue. This is a man that is angry. This is a man that has actual malice, that has physical aggression and anger, because we see him put his hands on him, throw him on the bed, put his hands on his neck, scream on him, and then turn out the lights.
Yeah, other than the fever, like I had a fever for a couple of days, that was it. But my wife had it bad. My wife, I mean, she didn't have it bad, but she gets, anytime there's a viral infection going on, she gets it pretty bad.
And so his son is in an 8x8 box. The area that you're sitting in is bigger than that. Oh.
Sustain.
You can use your common sense for how big 8 feet is. Alone. And remember, we're looking through a camera that is has some night vision capability. Ronan.
This kid here apparently is really, really intelligent. He, I guess he went disguised as a teacher into the classroom and started teaching, grading papers and stuff like that. I mean, he's fairly intelligent.
And told us what it's like to be in there, that when the lights are off, there is no ambient light. There is no window, that he's sitting in the pitch dark. So let's talk about the application of the evidence
I got locked in my room all the time. I just went out the window.
to the law. Aggravated child abuse. Malicious means wrongfully, intentionally, and without legal justification.
Are you feeling better, Jinx? My parents had no idea how to deal with me, that's for sure. But I don't know if I would have been put in a box. Pretty sure my father wanted to put me in a box, but it wouldn't have had much light.
What's in establishing or evaluating what is reasonable punishment? Is it corporal punishment? Things that are generally accepted as being a corporal punishment. A strike on the hand, hitting a child on the back of their behind in a direct response as a punishment. Reasonable corporal punishment. Reasonable punishment does not subject a child to a risk of harm.
My father would just close fist us, like, especially me and my brother, especially my brother. My God, there was no such thing as, don't do that, don't do that, don't do that.
And it does not cause actual harm, like the case here. It is not humiliating, dehumanizing, and cruel. It is proportional, and it is limited in duration. So let's talk about the duration here. Continuous, this is ongoing. And I think that's an important delineation here, right? This is not a proportional reaction to a behavior, like a discipline or a punishment. He has no other room in the house. There is no other place for him. Every other space is taken up. The parents have a room. Each of his daughters have this. So there is no situation where he conforms his behavior to whatever standards the defendant wants, and then he is out of the structure in the garage. This is his life, continuous, even in the best case scenario. But we know that it was more insidious than that, because we look at the duration. January 6th, he goes in at 8:10 p.m. That's when they lock up the door for the.
I am the type of person, though, if I go somewhere, I will just stay the hell away from people. I mean, I don't like a lot of people anyways. So, when they came out with the 6 foot, buffer zone thing, I try to do that regardless of pandemics or anything going on. I just don't like people fucking breathing on me and shit. And it's called bubble space, There's absolutely no reason for you to be behind me or in front of me in my face. There's a bubble zone here. Just stay the fuck away from me.
Final time. No more bathroom, no more glasses of water, certainly no snacks. He's not.
Some of those people that love to get just right in your face while they're talking to you, stay the hell away from me. Just get the hell away from me. Stand over there. That's fine. I can fucking hear you. I don't need you to be, especially in bars. That's why I never used to go to bars, because people are all over you. My God.
The door's not open until 7:10 in the morning. He's in there for 11 hours overnight. January 8th, he goes in at 9:39 p.m. January 9th, the door is not open again until 8:35 in the morning, 11 hours. January 9th, 8:36 to 7:39. January 10th, 8:36 p.m. until 8:25 a.m., 12 hours. No bathroom, not a drink, not a chance of getting a snack. No way to escape if there is an emergency or a fire.
It's like when you go to park in a parking lot, right? Like I'll find a spot way away from, I'll walk a whole mile before I get to the store. And I guarantee you, as soon as I come out of the store, some asshole will park right next to me. And you see all of these cars. I just don't like people. So I will do everything I can possibly do to stay away from people when I'm out. But, that's me.
Here. Locked, deadbolted inside. When we look at January 13th, 4:49 p.m. to 6:18 in the morning, 13 hours on a regular basis. And the exhibit that the state showed you, all of the ring videos are in from that entire time period. But then we showed you hours of videos that showed every event. So him going in, and then when they come in again, he gets out. So those are the major blocks, the major events. When they come in, they go in, they out. And those are the numbers that we're talking about. When we look at the total in a day, okay, fine, not just overnight. How much of a 24-hour day is he in the room? On January 10th, he goes to the bathroom between 7:39 and 7:45 a.m. or 7:43, so that's when he's let out. He leaves the room at 9:05. He told us he got left around 9 to go to school. And then he returns to the room at 4:59, so after school.
That's why I don't go to movie theaters either. Like, you never know, right? You go to movie theaters, man, and people do all kinds of weird shit in movie theaters. No thanks, man.
And then he leaves the room to go to the bathroom at 5:56 to 6:18 p.m. And then he's in for the rest of the night. So the total, if we go 12 a.m. to 12 p.m., is 14 hours and 22 minutes of a 24-hour day. And he went to school. Huge portions of this child's life are alone in this room. On January 13th, same thing. He goes out for 2 minutes to go to the bathroom at 7 o'clock in the morning, almost 8. He leaves the room to go to school at 9 o'clock. Back in the room at 4:49. He gets dinner at 7:02 and lights off.
I used to love the drive-ins. Remember the drive-ins? Drive-ins are so much better. You can watch the movie outside. You're in your car. You can do whatever the fuck you want. You can get out of your car. You go take a walk if you want. You never really miss anything. The sound is so wonderful in a drive-in. It's so much better than a movie, but all the freaking drive-ins are gone now. So I used to love drive-ins.
At 7:26. He's in there for 16 hours.
I think I saw Rocky at a drive-in. Rocky and a couple other ones.
Going from 12 a.m. to 12 p.m. And he went to school. January 20th, same thing. 6:43 to 6:45. Leaves the room at 9.
Of him is I would start out wanting to know what about him. I would be doing a psychological autopsy in reference to how did he grow up? What's his background? What was his relationship with his parents and so forth and so on to get a baseline as to what might.
Yeah, concerts are great, but you're pretty much like, I've been to so many concerts that I can't remember because I was either too stoned or too drunk. So, that's a different story. When I was younger, I didn't really care too much, but still, the concerts, like we have a lot of concerts around here outside, so that's fine. We used to go to the Boston Garden for concerts all the time too, and the Boston Garden is probably the biggest dump you would ever go to for a concert. I mean, I'm glad they took that thing down. It was just a disgusting place to go to.
Explain this type of behavior.
Yeah, absolutely. You bring up a great point there. And this prosecutor now driving home the point that a lot of the times they looked like an ordinary family, and what happened behind closed doors is the reason why we were here. So Phil Waters, thank you for being with us today, but we're going to pick up on more of the closing statements there from the state when we return from this short break.
There's a tragic outcome in this case.
Civil trial.
Hospital they're suing responsible for
a first-degree murder charge in the death of his mother. Moments ago, we received this mugshot from the Maywood, Illinois Police Department. We're told Brown was taken into custody yesterday in San Diego, California, after being deported from Mexico.
We look to the evidence. You can make reasonable inferences from the evidence, and we look to his actions and then the things that he said in those circumstances. So let's look at the defendant's actions. That he did not give the victim a room in the house. He hired a contractor specifically to build this. He specified no windows, 8x8.
Yeah, we went to, I remember going to, I think it was Kansas and Styx concert. This was a long time ago. It was outside. And I don't remember a fucking thing. I remember maybe being in the parking lot for a few hours, before the concert, and after that, I don't remember much. So, after the fourth or fifth bong. I just don't. And it sucks because I love Kansas. Kansas was such a great band, but I don't remember any of it. I agree with you. Outside concerts are. I just hate being around a lot of enclosed people. I just can't stand it.
Lights controlled from the outside, lock, and a deadbolt from the outside. No bathroom. And he put that bucket in there.
This kid was locked in a room with no bathroom, just a bucket. I mean, I don't know. It's a little weird.
Each one of those steps are intentional, specific, deliberate acts. It's not an accident that this happened like this. We know exactly what he intended to do to his son.
That's awesome. Alice Cooper and Rob Zombie. I think I saw Alice Cooper once here in Worcester. Not sure. I probably did.
He set up the room. He put the camera in there. And then he forced the child to use a bucket. This is a screenshot from January 19th at 6:46 a.m. where he has to use the bucket. He had been in the room since 9:12 p.m. the night before.
Red Rocks, where is that? Is that in Kentucky? Bathroom is the easiest to clean.
And this happened again and again. And in the morning, on one of the videos, you can hear the defendants tell him to take out the bucket and say, your neighbors don't need to see your piss bucket. From the outside, everything looked okay. But what was happening inside that room? It's abuse. We see that the defendants repeat.
I want to thank everybody for coming in tonight. I do, because it's usually I'm here by myself, but everybody, it's awesome to have people here. Colorado. I thought you were in Kentucky. That's weird. Yeah, this is, I think this was in either Florida or Arizona. Never been to Colorado, so I don't know.
Repeated actions to socially and physically isolate the child over and over and over again for alone in his room eating. And Dr. Myers told you about the impact of that type of social and physical isolation.
I don't understand why she has a microphone, because there must be some sort of a boom mic here picking up the sound. She's just holding, I don't even think this microphone is on.
His actions to take away every little step and bit of autonomy that he had no control over the temperature even in the room.
Nothing.
Did you turn the air on in your room?
Yes.
Are you supposed to touch that?
Did you hear Baba?
Yes.
Did you hear his question?
No.
Are you supposed to touch air conditioning?
No.
Why did you touch it?
She was getting hot.
You're a tough guy. You don't touch the air conditioning. I'll deal with you tomorrow.
Oh my God. Thanks, Necessary. I appreciate it. I just got to do my own thing on this channel here. I try not to get involved too much in the hoopla and the. I think I have like what 76 subs. That's fine. That's more than enough. Florida does have awesome concerts. Florida, anywhere nice weather, yeah, I'll be there. Thanks, buddy. We love you too, Jinx. Jinx is awesome. Jinx is a fantastic person. You should hear her talk. She's great.
Tomorrow on that.
Nothing better than a Kentucky accent. Just music to my ears, literally.
opening statement, defense counsel said that there was just a design flaw in the room. It's not a flaw. These are intentional choices. This is what he wanted to happen. This is what the environment that he intentionally subjected his son to. An environment that no reasonable person would think was appropriate or acceptable. And then after they have that conversation, both parents come in and ransack the room again and leave him with even less stuff sitting in the room. We have the defendant's actions, his choice that not only would he substantiate.
It out? Yeah, bad attitude. Tough guy. Tough guy. What's this here?
Tough guy. That's so funny. Oh my God.
What we have here is anger and derision. We have spite, and we want to cause him harm. That's why you're not trying to address behavior. What you're trying to do is maliciously punish him and make him sit in a dark cell for hours during the day. When we look at, oops, this one. This is a few minutes later.
So good bad attitude? Yeah. Oh, you're so tough. You're gonna say yeah? You're gonna hold it out? Yeah, bad attitude. Tough guy. Tough guy. What's this here?
Every American should have a Kentucky accent, as far as I'm concerned. It's just fantastic.
Bad attitude? Yeah. All right.
So when we're talking about like the reasonableness of the punishment, like look what he's doing that for there. He has a bad attitude. His 14-year-old son has a bad attitude, and that's why he gets to be locked in a room with no lights, which to talk to, Dr. Myers told us is the same as solitary confinement, something that is universally condemned.
I guarantee you he didn't do this to his other kids, but all right, so let's go to, I'm gonna get out of here and we'll go to the verdict here. All right, so let's go to the verdict here and then we'll move on to something else. Just wanted to cover a little bit of the case just in case nobody knew what was going on. I don't know what's going on with the sound. It's not me, it's them, I think.
All right, good afternoon. Everyone may be seated.
This guy was such a good judge.
All right, court is back in session on State versus Ferreter. Let me have appearances, please.
On behalf of the state, Brianna Coakley. On behalf of the state,
All right. The court has been advised that the jury has reached a verdict. Are all sides ready to proceed? All right, Mark, you may bring the jurors out.
I think what happened in this case is, you know, they adopted this kid really young and they got into something that they just had no idea of how to handle. And, you know, right or wrong, I don't know. They just went about doing things the wrong way. I mean, do I think this guy should get jail time for it? Probably not. But I think that's what happened here. I don't think there was any like, I don't know, evil intent in this, just, but I could be wrong. Who knows? I agree. There's so much shit going on out there. The Delphi case to me, it's just that case that just won't go away. You know, it just, I've honestly never seen a case like Delphi before in my life. It's one of those things where, you know, you get sucked in to it and it seems so simple, but yet once they suck you into it, it just never ends. It just never goes away. And the poor families, you know, it's just absolutely ridiculous. All right, let's get back to this.
All rise. Jury entering.
If the Delphi case would have been in any other state, that case would have been probably thrown out already. I just don't see the evidence. I just don't.
All right, everyone may be seated. All right, members of the jury, has the jury selected a foreperson? And that's you, Mr. Bushy? All right, Mr. Bushy, has the jury reached a verdict in this matter? No, you can just tell me yes or no, has the jury reached a verdict? All right, if you could please hand the verdict to my courtroom deputy.
I'm the same way. I've had my thoughts on Delphi for about 5 years now, and I'm not going to change. I don't know, but my opinion, I don't think really means much. It's going to come down to 12 jurors, like it comes down in every other court case, and I just don't think they have enough to. I think Richard Allen's guilty as all hell, but it doesn't really mean much because in my opinion, the investigation was a nightmare. They completely screwed up this entire investigation, and now the prosecution's doing their own screwing up. So I don't know how it's going to end. I just don't. I agree. I agree with that 100%.
15th Judicial Circuit Criminal Division in and for Palm Beach County, Florida, case number 22.
I know one thing. When they get to court on the 30th, I think it's the 30th, she set a trial date for, not trial date, but she's gonna take some heads off for leaking those photos. Because that's a true thing. They wouldn't be having a hearing if it wasn't for, you know, leaking those photos, and whoever did it, I'd hate to be in her courtroom.
CF001136 BMB Division B, State of Florida versus Timothy Dunn Ferreter, defendant. Verdict: we the jury find as follows. As to count 1, we find the defendant guilty of aggravated child abuse as charged in the information. As to count 2, we find the defendant guilty of false imprisonment as charged in the information. As to count 3, we find the defendant guilty of neglect of a child as charged in the information.
So yeah, I think that was the big thing in this case is the state really put on a good case of the neglect.
So we say all this 12th of October 2023 in West Palm Beach, Florida, signed by the jury foreperson.
All right, does either side wish to have the jury polled? All right, so ladies and gentlemen, there's been a request to have the jury polled, and that simply means that each of you will be asked the question of what.
Yeah, it's just, you know, it's just so, like, if you follow this case from the beginning, right, it's just so, you know, I usually don't do this. I usually try to stick up for law enforcement as much as I can, but in this case here, right from the very beginning, it was fucked up. It's just not calling in the dogs, you know, who doesn't do that? To just a laundry list of, and they tried to keep everything secret, and rumors got out and stuff got leaked. You had Robert Ives coming out and saying stuff. It's just, it doesn't make it. This whole case has just been a nightmare.
Whether the verdict is your verdict.
If I was the families, I would be pissed. If I was the Patties, I would be absolutely pissed off at the prosecution and the investigation.
Verdict or not. If it is, you should only answer yes. If it is not, of course, you should answer no and nothing further. So Madam Clerk, at this time, if you could please poll the jury.
Juror 1, were the verdicts as read your verdict? Juror 2, were the verdicts as read your verdicts?
I mean, could you imagine being in that, whole press conference in 2019 when they came out with that new sketch? I'd have fucking freaked. If I was a family member and they were trying to, give me this sketch of this guy for 2 years, right? And then all of a sudden come out with this new sketch that looks absolutely nothing like the first sketch. I mean, I'd have just fallen off my chair. It's just, it's just the most bizarre thing. And just when you think it can't get any more bizarre, it does. It just,
Juror 3, were the verdicts as read your verdicts? Juror 4, were the verdicts as read your verdicts?
They were talking about this Odin shit back in year one. I remember that. That's why Ives came out and said that there was non-secular shit at the crime scene. And that's when everybody started saying, oh, there's got to be a ritualistic symbol behind this. And then all of a sudden people just kind of forgot about it as like a rumor. But Ives said it himself. He said there were 3 things that you would have liked to take a picture of. And they were all non-secular. So there you go.
Juror 5, were the verdicts as read your verdicts? Juror 6, were the verdicts as read your verdicts?
All right, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, at this time, this concludes your service to your community in this matter. I want to thank you.
All right, so he's guilty. I could probably guarantee you that this is going to be appealed. I don't know how much time this is going to get, but I just wanted to see that. I haven't seen that yet. And then the whole, oh my God, I don't like to knock creators, but the whole Murder Sheet podcast to me is just, oh my God, they're so horrible. The red Jeep and, this is what happens when you listen to criminals, man. You're probably going to get false information. Okay, so we're going to go here. This happened next door in Vermont, and they came out with a sketch, I think, 2 days ago. So this woman here was shot on a trail. I think John Kelly did a thing on this the other day. So I think I can get a video here on this. Hold on a second. There might be a commercial with this. Nope. All right, I gotta let this play here. This is a commercial, but this happened. Good night, Jinx. Thanks for coming in, Jinxie. Let me know if you want to be a mod. I'll make you a mod. Night, Shorty. That's classic. I gotta wait for this commercial to end and then I'll play this because I've gone through this before with this stupid thing. Okay, so. All right, so let me play this here. Well, I'm going to play the Delphi shit too pretty soon because there was a new thing on Court TV today. But I just wanted to go over this. So this woman here was on a trail and somebody shot her, and now they've released a sketch. She was a Let's just play.
Vermont State Police say more than 150 tips have come in since they released this sketch of a person of interest connected to the killing of a retired college dean. This composite sketch was released on Wednesday. Last Thursday, the body of 77-year-old Honore Fleming was found on a rail trail near her home in Castleton. Police say she was shot in the head. It is not clear if the shooting was random.
The White House announcing the American death toll keeps.
All right, that's the end of that. Are you on the West Coast, this Sarah Evil? Let me see if I can get a little bit more on that. By the time I get over, the commercial will be over. You're in Florida?
Police in Vermont have released a sketch of a person of interest in the deadly shooting of a retired university dean. They describe the suspect as a man in his 20s with red hair, about 5 feet 10 inches tall. The body of retired professor Honore Fleming was found on a hiking trail last week with a gunshot wound to her head. Police say they have no motive in the case.
She was just out basically walking in a trail, and somebody shot her from what part of Florida are you in? South Florida. Nice. Anywhere around Naples? Or are you on the eastern side? All right, I'm going to go Naples is like my second or third favorite place on the whole planet. There was one other case that I wanted to go over before I get to the bathtub murder trial. Okay, so let's go to this here. This is the prosecution opening statement on this, and hold on a second. I'll fill everybody in on this. 40 minutes from Naples. My family is in Spring Hill, in Florida. Well, not the whole family, but most of them are there. Naples is. I mean, I love all of Florida, but if I had to pick and choose, I'd pick the west side of Florida, especially around there. But I like Cocoa Beach too. All right, so this is the beginning of this case here. This is the bathtub murder trial. The state delivered its opening statement. Jones is accused of murdering his wife and lying about finding her in a bathtub. I remember this one here from a while ago, so they're just starting to get to the prosecution's opening statements. So let's check it out.
And state, you may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Sound is terrible. Sorry.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. First of all, thank you for your time and attention yesterday. I know it was a long.
No, I might have. Terrence Williams sounds familiar. I love Florida. Florida's the only thing I don't like about Florida, the tolls. Went down there a year ago. Was it a year ago now? The tolls are absolutely incredible down there. You get told everywhere. You get off the highway, get on the highway, get off the highway, get on the highway. It's
on the way, and also thank everybody for coming back. We can't do this process without you, so we give you our sincere thanks. The evidence in this case will show that on or about April 24th of 2018, the defendant killed his wife, Shanti Cooper Trones. You're going to hear from the medical examiner in this case, and he's going to tell you what the cause of death was. You're going to hear that Shanti Cooper Trones was beaten to death and she was strangled. You're going to hear that she was hit with such a force that she had 2 fractures in her skull, and that her hyoid bone in her throat was broken as well. You're going to hear that her ear was pulled to the point of being torn, almost torn off. And you're going to see photos and hear evidence of multiple burst blood vessels known as TPI, a telltale sign of strangulation. And that's how Shanti Cooper Trones died at the hand of the dead. So how did we get to this point? Well, David Trones and Shanti Cooper Trones met online back in 2013. At the time, David Trones was still living in Minnesota. Both were coming out of previous marriages, and they took to each other quickly. David Trones moved.
I think I've heard about that case. But I'll definitely look into it for sure. There's so many cases I'm working on right now. I'm working on the Connecticut River Valley killer. I'm working on this Kimberly Moreau case with help from Cold Truth. She's the one that I just talked to. I think it was one of the sisters or the father the other day on Facebook. So I got some more information on that. I'll be doing that later this morning. And then, of course, the Delphi shit, Evansdale, Florida, all of them.
To Florida to be with Shanti within the same year that they met online. Now, David had a successful career in Minnesota. He'd saved a fair amount of money. And so when he moved to Florida, he was able to purchase a beautiful large home in the Delaney Park area of Orlando. He paid cash for this home, about $600,000. And the house at the time was livable. It was an older house, but the plan was that he was going to purchase the house, they would live in the house, and then eventually do renovations and modernize and open up the home as they lived there. Now, when he purchased the home, it was purchased with a trust that included himself and his mother. Importantly, someone who was not included in that trust and in that ownership of the home was Shanti Cooper Trones. So the Trones moved into the house along with Shanti's son Jackson, and at first the home was livable. Just got deeper and deeper into this, what would become a money pit. Now, you'll hear that from the time...
Yeah, no doubt. Thanks. I appreciate it. I'll definitely look into it for sure. So this guy here, so this is a trial of a man accused of murdering his wife in Orlando's Delaney Park. I know exactly where that is. First-degree murder. He was on trial for first-degree murder on the second day of testimony. Jurors heard from people who knew the couple. So this is day 2. So we're going over basically the opening statements now.
That David Trones moved to Florida, to Orlando, he never worked the entire time. Meanwhile, you'll hear that Shanti worked almost nonstop. She had a financial and accounting consulting business, and she worked from sun up to sun down. You'll hear how hard of a worker she was and what she did to support her family. Now, so during this time, as she was the only source of income, and the defendant hadn't worked the entire time.
See, it's so weird. They got this mic set up on the podium here, right? But you just know, I mean, if this is being videoed in court, they got a boom mic right above this guy, or a jib somewhere here. And this guy's an idiot. He just keeps walking away. and you lose him because whoever's doing the mic here is having a hard time getting it over to the guy to where he's standing. So it's just another round of dumbness when it comes from sound and how they audio these things. Like, you would think in 2023 things would be a little bit fucking better than this when it comes to sound, but they're not. So.
Time he was in Florida, that she was the sole breadwinner for the household and for the expenses. So while Shanti was working, and she largely worked from home, David would take care of the yard and the pool and the dogs. So in early...
I mean, look at this courtroom, right? It doesn't look very big. So, you know, what you do before this here, if you're an audio guy, you go in before and you test the mics out and stuff. I mean, we used to do this stuff when we were kids with analog sound mics and like, and have better recordings than this. It's just weird.
In 2017, David and Shanti were married. Also, in early 2017, the real meat of the renovation, or ultimately destruction of the home, took place. It got to the point that the interior portion of the home, the living room, the kitchen, all of the main areas were completely gutted, unlivable, down to the studs. And you're going to hear in this case that at some point, the destruction of the home became...
They should have called this the Money Pit Murder, because this is very, very reminiscent of the movie The Money Pit.
So complete.
Only with a much different ending.
There was concerns about its structural soundness to even do continued work on it. Now you'll hear that during this time, as the house became progressive...
Funny story about this whole thing, right? Like, first time I've ever been down to Naples was a long time ago with my son. They were down there, and we flew out of here, Boston, right? Like Logan, the scum pit of the earth, right? As far as airports. And then we flew into, you know, Fort Myers. And you want to talk about an airport, right? I mean, this place in Fort Myers is just unbelievable as far as difference in airports. I mean, you had red carpeting in the airport. You had, I mean, it looked like a palace. And on the way back from Fort Myers, like the jet itself back to New York was like the most, it almost looked like a Concorde jet. That's how great it was. But the difference in the airports, man, is most everything in Florida is just done better. It's just
progressively more and more unlivable, that caused an obvious tension in the relationship. You'll hear that David and Shanti would argue and bicker about the home and the construction and what was going on, and her not having any ownership in the home. You're going to hear that the home deteriorated to the point that there was only 2 livable spaces in the home. There was the upstairs bedroom, which sort of served as a 1-bedroom apartment that had its own bathroom. And in that bedroom, Shanti lived with her son Jackson, who had a bunk bed type bed up there. And then in the garage area, there was a room, and that's where David Sherman lived. And during this time,
it was just, you know, like you leave Logan, right? And, you know, you get the smog, you get the smell of the Charles. It's just, then you fly into, you know, LaGuardia, because you don't take, you know, it's not a one-stop flight. So you're in the LaGuardia and you just wonder how they can get an airplane in there. And then you fly down to Fort Myers, right? And you look, that can't, you know, like that can't be the airport. It is. It's like this expanse of land, you know, this I remember going down to using a payphone. It was like $5 to use the payphone.
they weren't sleeping in the same bedroom. They weren't sleeping in the same bed. They weren't even sleeping in the same wing of the house. And this had gone on for a long period of time. There was hope on the horizon, though, because David heard about this show called Zombie House Flipping, and a person named Keith Ory who was put in touch with, who was involved in the show. And Keith Ory came out and looked at the home. Now, the first time you're going to hear they came and looked at the home, it seemed like it was early in the process. It seemed like a normal construction. There wasn't any interest for the television show. But several.
This was my consistency of what I would do at Naples. I'd get up every day. It's like 60 in the morning and it's like 80, 85 in the afternoon. Go down to the beach, get my little chair, get my margaritas, and just sit on the beach for the rest of the fucking day. That was my existence when I was down there. I didn't do anything else, literally nothing. Yeah, well, Ruckus is from Southie, is a bit different. I've been up in New Hampshire too long. I don't have much of an accent anymore.
Months later, when David got back in touch with Mr. Ory, it had deteriorated to a point it was something like he'd never seen. And at this point, he already thought this could be something that could be on the show. This is such a severe demolition of this home that this could be something that could be on the Zombie House Flipping.
Like Ruckus would say Medford, and I say Medford because it's spelt with a T in Revere, where in Southie it's a little bit more of an R to it. It's
now, being on the Zombie House Flipping show didn't provide the Trones with any kind of paycheck for being on the show, but there were benefits to being on the show. Trade out.
There's a big difference between Italians and the Irish.
Upgrades to the construction. So, it was a value that could help with $20,000, $25,000, $30,000 towards the house. And so this was, in a way, sort of a lifeline. But it came with a catch. The problem was, in order to be on the show, there was a production schedule. And obviously, the house had been sitting destroyed for essentially about a year at this point. In early 2018, they had to make.
I mean, other than LaGuardia, Logan Airport is probably the worst airport in the world.
A decision, the Trones, to pause construction, which had just started again, and leave their house essentially in this demolished state, in order to be on the show, which wasn't going to begin production for several months.
If you want to get your car stolen, then just drive it to Logan. Just park it there. They'll steal it.
Or to continue with the construction and not be able to be on the show. So ultimately, the decision was made to go forward with the show, which again paused the construction, leaving the home in complete disrepair for several months. Now, you'll see that this led to further frustration. On top of the home frustration and constantly working that Shanti was doing to bring in all of the money coming into the household, in early 2018, she also suffered from appendicitis, which caused her a great difficulty. She had some complications afterwards, and for several months.
This guy's too funny.
She was in pain and she was perhaps more irritable than she had been in the past. And it wasn't until close to the time to when this murder happened, you'll hear that she actually started to get back to herself and normality. So you're going to hear from Keith Ory. He's going to tell you for a network. There's costs and considerations involved. And if you're going to, sink a lot of money into this production, you want to know that the people involved are going to, to stick.
Look at how fast this person's hands are. The steno here. Like, I don't even know if I could do that on a piano. Watch how fast she's typing.
with the project because you don't want to invest a lot of money in something that ends up not happening. So because of this, he wanted to make sure that Dave and Shanti were on the same page. And he required a sit down with both of them to make sure they understood how the production was going.
This is not how I type. I basically type the old Barney Miller way, like with one finger and then another finger. I'd probably kill myself if I had to type like
to
this.
go what was expected.
That's
and that
just
there
amazing.
wasn't going to be any surprises, or they weren't going to pull out, be any issue. Well, he had a hard time getting this scheduled with Dave. You're going to hear, and finally he, at his insistence, said, no, we cannot go forward with this production unless this happens. He was able to set a time about a week before Shanti's murder.
Are you from Pennsylvania? Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania? Sorry, I missed that. Yeah, massive. I'd love to go to Pittsburgh. Yeah, I mean, this is just insane.
And he came over to the house to meet with both Dave and Shanti. And you're going to hear that at that meeting at first, Dave tried to go forward without Shanti. Shanti was there. She was upstairs in her office/apartment that she lived in this home. And she didn't even want to come down and be part of the meeting. You're going to hear he had to go up there several times to try to get her to come down. Eventually, reluctantly, he was able to get her to come down. And you're going to hear her demeanor at that time. She was not into this. You're going to hear this is not something that she was involved in. Keith Ory was trying to explain the project. She was dismissive. She wouldn't sit down. She didn't want anything to do with this meeting or him or what was being planned with this show. She came down, listened for a few minutes, and then went back upstairs before the meeting was even.
The judge right here is like, can you please get back in front of the fucking microphone, please? Because you keep walking away from the mic and nobody can hear you. Nobody.
This is a week before her murder.
There you go.
This home show, this zombie house flipping, was the lifeline out of this mess with this house that they've dug themselves into. And she, at that point, a week before her murder, was not into it.
Oh. Yeah, I'm a huge Steeler fan, so I've been trying to get to Pittsburgh for a while. Yeah.
So I want to take you to Monday night, April 23rd of 2018. Shanti's son, Jackson, from a previous marriage, was not staying with them that night. He was staying with his father, Jim Cooper. So the house in Delaney Park was just Shanti and Dave, with nobody else there. Now you're going to see through phone records that throughout that evening, Shanti was active as she normally was on her phone. She was receiving and sending text messages, phone calls. She had a step tracker on her phone. It showed her moving around as it did, most days, throughout the day.
It's almost always the husband, right? You can basically, almost bet on that. Like if you had betting odds, I would bet, it's the husband, like the whole Susan Murphy thing. It's like, it's the husband. The husband's involved somehow because there's statistics to back that up. It's not the fairy godmother. It's usually the husband.
And that she was active into that evening. You're going to see that evening she had a short phone call with her son that would be their last phone call. And you're going to see the step tracker on her phone stops. There's no other movement after about 11:30, 11:25, 11:30 on April 23rd. So this is where we get into Dave's story. So you're going to hear what his story was to law enforcement.
If you keep walking away from the microphone, we're never going to hear it. No, we're not. Nobody's going to hear it.
And according to him, you're going to hear that
Here he goes again.
April 23rd into the early morning of April 24th, at some point, he separated. He went down to his bedroom in the garage with the dog and left her in that upstairs apartment bedroom. And they both went to bed. And then the morning of April 24th, 2018, according to Dave, Shanti, who you'll hear was an occasional cigarette smoker, came down the stairs. And there's an area by a pool that they had. And she sat outside there and she smoked a cigarette. And you're going to hear, according to Dave, that about 9:15 in the morning is when that happened. She came down, they spoke briefly. She talked about how she may not go to a dentist appointment that she had made for that morning the day before, and that she went back upstairs to work and to decide what she was going to do with the rest of her day. Now, at this point, at about 9:20, 9:25, according to Dave, you're going to hear that he
Yes. Yes, it does. Yes, it does. It sounds exactly like that. Yeah, usually the wife too. Usually, like, you can pretty much guarantee you that if something happened and it's a domestic, it's usually probably the partner. Very rare. It's very rare that it's not. So I'm gonna get out of here. We'll go to because I can't stand this guy anymore. Somebody's gonna have to tell him, that you can't walk away from the microphone. So we'll go to. Yes, this was done actually 3 hours ago, and I watched a little of it, but I want to watch the whole thing. I apologize because I'm pretty sure that Murder Sheet's on here, whether you like them or hate them. They seem to be the whole guru thing behind Delphi, and they're so, just, I don't know, they're wrong every single time.
It was a mystery, an unsolved case with many leads, suspicious characters, and so many rumors. Investigators released very little information, but journalists, podcasters, and true crime followers all speculated on what happened to best friends Abby Williams and Libby German, two teenage girls living in the small rural community of Delphi, Indiana, a town with just 3,000 residents. On February 13th, 2017, the girls had a day off from school and they decided to go on an outdoor adventure. They were dropped off near the Monon High Bridge, and that's where their bodies were found the next day. More than 5 years later, Richard Allen was arrested for the murders, but he is claiming his innocence, and the defense.
I mean, if I was a violent person, I could see why, because it's they have a lot to lose, a lot to gain, especially when it comes with children involved and stuff like that. Yeah, I agree. It's so like superficial to just get rid of the problem that way, right?
Has their own theory of the case. A group of white nationalists who practice the ancient Nordic religion of Odinism murdered the girls in a ritualistic killing. They also claim the reach of these local Odinists goes all the way to the prison where he is being held. Tonight,
like, if I would have told you last year, right, that this was going to happen, I probably would have given a Nobel Peace Prize. Like,
we take a look at this alleged.
Like I said, in Delphi, when you think it can't get any weirder, it does. It just does.
Odinistic conspiracy from the scene of the murders to the suspected killers to the prison and the guards, watching Richard Allen as we continue our investigation of the Delphi murders. I'm Vinnie Politan. Thank you so much for joining us tonight here on Closing Arguments as we take a lot of time to take a look at the Delphi murders. Now, there's two ways of looking at what we're going to do this hour. Two ways to look at it. Number one, the defense is alleging all of this, okay? So it's the defense who is making allegations.
Rick Snay had a good live today. It was a good live for sure. I like Rick. I don't agree with everything he says, but I do like Rick. Rick and Frosty's good. I mean, I probably sound like a broken record in this whole shit, but I just want the families of this to finally have some some answers. And I just don't want it to be this whole fucking circus all the time. You know, I just want whoever did this to basically get beaten across the face with a baseball bat. But that's just my opinion. I mean, but you just want the families to finally, especially Anna, you know.
Allegations relative to this Odinism. Two ways to look at that. One, does it just kind of raise a doubt as to what's really going on here, right? And that's a tactic that is used by criminal defense attorneys in every criminal case that we cover.
I think I would probably say about 30 to 40, maybe even 50% of the creators that have been on this case for over 3 years or so have done a live on the Odinism thing. This is, like I said, this is not news to me, but just it's, you know, again, it's one of those things that, you know, just makes the case a little bit more bizarre, right?
Right? There's some way that they're trying to, they always say, muddy the waters, right? That's one way to look at what we're going to go through tonight. The other way to look at it is this the truth? Is this what really happened? Is an innocent man being charged with murder? Now, from my perspective, especially at this point of everything, actually all the time.
Yeah, I gotta get on that. I work nights, so it's really hard for me to do a lot of shit during the day. But it's no excuse. I'm a Facebook guy, Twitter guy, but I'm getting into the Discord thing here soon. I'll be on Snay's Discord soon. Just haven't been able to get a chance.
I'm concerned with what the truth is. What is the truth? So we're going to go through this Odinism to figure out what exactly it means relative to the.
I mean, these two kids didn't deserve this, right? Like that's my whole philosophy, right? These two kids didn't do this. They didn't deserve what they got. So somebody or some people, whoever did this, needs to pay dearly. I mean, this is just not something that's acceptable, in my opinion. Just not. So, and I don't care how they get there, as long as they get there.
The truth, not like, oh, yeah, it could really, mess up the prosecution. No. Tonight, we're going to try to figure out the relationship of what they are alleging to the truth of what happened to these two girls. And this is it's a horrific case. We know that. This is terrible, terrible what happened to Libby and Abby. The murder scene was strange. There were things at this murder scene that.
The good news is I've got people looking into this. I know a lot of people on this flip of the coin here when it comes to Norse ruins, Germanic ritual stuff. So I've reached out to a couple of professors, and I want them to take a look at this to see if they can make anything out of this, because I don't know what to think with these here, especially the tree, where the tree is. But I know a little bit about the stuff, but I'm not like a professional at Norse and Germanic religions.
Were a little bizarre, perhaps staged, perhaps a ritual.
whatever it was, this was not a normal, and I don't want to say, there's never like anything that's normal when you talk about murder, but it's not someone is killed and then the killer just gets out of there and the body is just left wherever it was. There was something.
Yeah, I'm on Discord with the Think Tank. I don't know if you guys watch them, but the Think Tank is really good too. Her and Mekhi are really good. But I just I have very little time to do shit. So, and when I do shit, I usually fuck it up. So I'll be on there at some point. But I agree. All of these guys that do this stuff just need a baseball bat right to the face.
That was done at that scene afterwards, and then the clothing, all of it. It was strange. And the question is, what's the significance of all of that? We're going to dive into that tonight. Richard Allen is saying, I didn't do it. He's saying the Odinists did it. I mean, it's a clear finger they are pointing in this case. And we're going to take a look. We'll take a look at the scene. We'll also take a look. We won't name anyone, but we'll take a look at the people that he's pointing the finger at and what circumstances surrounding those people that have the defense alleging.
I honestly can't wait until I see this guy in court again, because I think that's going to tell everybody everything, to be honest with you. Now, he went into court the last time we saw him and he was so feeble, and we'll see what he looks like now. And that's going to tell me a lot about his brains in here.
That Richard Allen is innocent and these other people are guilty.
I can almost guarantee you that he won't look like he did the last time.
Guilty of this horrific murder. And then we've got to take a look at what's happening in that prison where he's being held. He's alleging that you've got some prison guard pagans who are practicing Odinism. That it's not just the murder scene, it's the murder scene, it's the killers, and it's the people who are guarding him inside the prison. So we're learning more this week. We've got to take some of these pieces and figure out, is it a case where there's just a little trace of truth to it and then it's kind of being expanded out? Or is there something to this?
Is that what they told you? That's what I want to know. I want to know, because it's really hard, to look at it from this image that they put up. It'd be great to see the crime scene of how it was actually really positioned and all of that shit. The I don't know. Yeah, I agree. I guarantee you he'll be cleaned up and looking a lot better than he was the last time. Because he's, as far as my opinion, I think this guy's guilty. I think this guy is 100% guilty. And that's just my opinion. My opinion doesn't matter. It just doesn't, because I'm not going to be on the jury. But why I believe that, I don't know.
Because again, this is a case, took 5 years to get to this point for an arrest. But now the defense.
But I think the way the case is going, the way the prosecution is handling this, and the way they're being secretive about shit, and I think there's a very good chance for them to lose this case.
Has turned it around and said, well, wait a minute, this is something completely different. So let's begin at the prison, because this is the latest stuff and information that we've gotten, because we've got a response from the prosecution.
Especially if they get that bullet thrown out. If they get that bullet thrown out, this case is over. This case is done. If they can somehow get that bullet removed, or at least question about its authenticity, this case is over.
Prosecution and the prison guards themselves. So the defense in their memorandum is alleging that members of a
unless of course they have more, and we don't know, but according to this document, it doesn't seem like they do. It doesn't seem like they got much.
Pagan Norse religion, Odinism, predates Christianity, hijacked by white nationalists. So it's an actual religion, but it's been hijacked by white nationalists who ritualistically sacrificed Abigail Williams and Liberty German. That is clear. That's what their allegation is. That's who did it. The evidence shows that during his pretrial incarceration at the Westville Correctional Facility, Richard Allen has been monitored, intimidated, and mentally abused by correctional officers who are also members of the Odinite cult. Well, how would he know that? Here's the allegation. These Westville corrections officers boldly wore patches on their Department of Corrections uniforms that proclaimed, "In Odin we trust," along with another patch displaying symbols of Odin.
So I heard that they're thoroughly investigating this now. But I don't know how true that is. But if I was them, that's what I would be doing. I would be, before this goes to trial, knocking on every door about this Odin thing and making sure that all the T's are crossed and all the I's are dotted. This is what they need to be doing right now, is investigating this whole angle, because it doesn't look like they did.
The interlocking triangles. Big allegation, right? On their uniforms, they are wearing these Odinist symbols and being very bold about it. So what was the response from the
Yeah, I mean, the bullet, to me, the bullet's always been a problem, because, I mean, that's middle Indiana. It's hunters all over the place out there. I mean, for God's sakes, I think Ron Logan had a 6 hour too. So who knows? I mean, it's just, I don't know. I don't know how you prove that without having somebody come in, some expert come in and say, well, you can't go by that. I mean, it's just, and they weren't killed with a gun. So it's, I don't know.
Prosecution and from those prison guards. We've got that for you tonight. The state's response was, and again, we're not naming any of the corrections officers here, that both Sergeant X and Sergeant X have worn patches that refer to Odinism, that those patches reflect that Sergeant Unnamed and Sergeant Unnamed's religious beliefs are not associated with any kind of cult. So they are Odinist?
See, my thing is, like, even if you can convince me, right, that, okay, this crime scene was staged to look like Odinism, then the person who was doing this would have had to know something about how to put the sticks. He would have had to know something about Odinism. And do they have anything on Richard Allen where he knows anything about Odinism? Or that he's in this cult, or he knows anything about Norse? I mean, I guess you could look it up, but but that's my thing. It's out there. So even if you say, well, it wasn't an Odinistic cult that did this, and how the fuck did this person who did this know how to put the sticks? So they're gonna have to tie that to him.
That's what I'm hearing. Now, affidavit from each of these correctional officers. We begin with number one. I have been an acting supervisor in APOD, where the defendant is housed since late February, early March 2023.
If they don't have anything else in this case, like let's just say, okay, they don't have anything else, they don't have any DNA, whatever, and they're going with what they have in the PCA and the bullet. The bullet's the most important thing. If the bullet gets thrown out, this case is just circumstantial. It's got nothing. It has absolutely no. It has no. They better not go to court with that. That's all I'm saying. Because it'd be almost a miracle if that comes back as like a conviction. They just don't have enough.
That I do not practice Odinism, and that Norse paganism heathenry is my practicing religion. So it's a different form of paganism. I guess Nordic, because it's Norse, right? Heathenry, not Odinism. I don't know the difference. I'm sure there probably is a difference. You know, there's a difference between Roman Catholics and Greek Orthodox and other types of Christians. I get it. But it's still interesting. Now, here's the big one. I do wear patches on my uniform that identify.
Right. I mean, it's really hard to step away from this shit now because people forget that this 136, I got it in my files here, this 136-page document came from the prosecution's discovery. The defense isn't making any shit up here. They may be adding a little bit of an opinion here, but this is from their discovery. This is from their investigation, law enforcement's investigation. So this is coming from them.
Find me as someone who practices Norse paganism, heathenry. The patches are real. The patches are real. But says, I am not part of a cult. I am not part of a radical hate group. I have never had a one-on-one conversation with the defendant where I tried to influence him in any way. Correctional officer number 2, I do not practice Odinism. I do wear patches on my uniform that can be, but are not associated with Odinism.
That's the thing. You know, it's the whole thing. It goes all the way back to the beginning. It's just been a horribly inexcusable waste of police resources. It just has. I mean, they have done a terrible investigation as far as I'm concerned. And they basically stumbled upon this guy from something they missed 6 years ago. I mean, it's just like, how does that ever happen? You know, it just, I don't know. Maybe. Who knows? Who knows what they found at the house? That's why I gotta you know, see more to kind of make some sort of an observation. But as of right now, I just don't think they have a lot.
Odinism can be. So it's an odinistic patch that, yeah, you could look at it that way, or you could look at it, I guess a different way, right? I guess if someone was wearing a cross, you could say, well, it's a T. It wasn't a cross. I don't know. That the patch.
And I'm not buying this whole inmate. I mean, when people go, you know, when they put people in jail or in prison, when they're kind of being accused of a crime, they do shit in prisons and jails to kind of force people to talk. I went to jail, so I know years ago, I know how people are treated, and they will literally muscle you and do, I mean, look what they did technically to Ron Logan. I mean, they do stuff like this and nobody can say anything. Nobody will ever say anything because all they have to do is say we didn't do it. There's absolutely no way they can kind of prove it.
Just pay the utmost respect to my religious higher power, the same way.
This whole time he's been in the prison, they've been trying to get him to say something. That's how they do things.
Christian person would wear a cross. There you go. Okay. How about that, folks? How about that? Let's bring in my guests. Joining me tonight in Indianapolis.
That's why they record every conversation. That's why they record everything you do. That's why they have informants in the jail that are trying to get information out of you so they can go and squeal. They call them rats. They go and squeal to the wardens and stuff. That's what they do. It's and good luck trying to prove that, right? Good luck trying to prove that they're being manipulative. Nobody cares about people in prison. Nobody's gonna care what they say.
Indiana, hosts of the Murder Sheet podcast. Make sure you download tonight. Anya Kane and Kevin Greenlee. And in Salt Lake City, Utah, I saw him shaking his head. Retired police commander, host of the Profiling Evil podcast, also an expert on religious cults. Mike King is with us. All right. I'll get to you in a second, Mike, because I know you got a lot to say about this. All right, Anya and Kevin. So
I don't necessarily think he's being mistreated, but there's ways that they go about getting information in prison and jail, and they do that. They don't want this to go to trial. They'd like to get this guy to confess so that they can save some money, and they will literally have people try to get information out of him, try to get him to talk, try to get him to say something, step in it.
This was the week where we had the response. And am I reading anything wrong? And do you have more information that it seems these guards, two of these guards, were wearing patches associated, whether directly or loosely, or could be interpreted as Odinism?
Yeah, so it's interesting. And we've learned a lot about heathenry and paganism since all this came out. But heathenry is a blanket term that refers to people who believe in the.
I mean, I don't like to knock people, but look at this bookshelf. Is this maybe this is a background here, but I mean, this bookshelf doesn't look really all that sturdy here.
Germanic gods of old, the Norse gods of old. And that includes people who are not racist, they're not in cults, they're just normal people like you and I, like just like how I'm a Roman Catholic, right? And that's their religion, nothing wrong with that. Odinism refers to a slice of that community that takes that and is white supremacist, they're linked to prison gangs. So basically calling all people who are heathens Odinists is a bit like calling all Mormons or people of the Church of the Latter-day Saints, affiliating them with followers of Warren Jeffs, who runs a polygamous cult that targeted young children. So it's kind of like the defense is painting with a very, very broad brush when they refer to basically all symbols associated with heathenry as being directly linked to Odinism, if that makes sense.
Yes, it does. It does. And we've been saying from the beginning, freedom of religion in this country. You can practice whatever you want. I mean, this religion predates Christianity. It's been around a long, long time. But how common is it? Because before this, I'll be honest, never heard of it. Don't have any friends who have ever discussed it with me if they practice it or if they know people that practice it. In all your research, you're finding that it's more common.
See, I just, all I ever do is history shit, but I haven't really gotten into the North side of things because, unfortunately, we don't know a lot. Everything, I mean, nobody ever wrote anything down. And if they did, by the time the Romans got there, it was kind of rewritten. So we don't know a lot about that stuff, but there is some, truth to the whole Odinistic religion. But I'm just not versed on it. So Greek mythology and Roman mythology, yes, but the Norse side of things, probably not.
And then we might think.
I think it's interesting because we've definitely found and heard from a lot of pagans and heathens who've reached out to us saying, I in no way am involved with child murder or child sacrifice. That's not what me and my fellow members of the faith are about. So we've definitely heard more about it.
I know one thing, the Vikings kicked some major ass. I mean, from, I would say, between 700 CE to about, 13th century. They literally kicked serious ass everywhere, except for China. But they literally conquered France, England, Cyprus, everything.
It now just because it's being sort of targeted by the defense in their scheme of a grand conspiracy involving Odinists across the state. And so I think it's probably a little more common than we might think. And again, most heathens are very normal, just nice people. Odinism, the sect, the kind of side of things that aren't so nice, that is linked to white supremacy, criminal gangs, prison gangs. So that is where you actually do get people who are, maybe more, concerning, I suppose.
Right, and that's where the defense says that it's been hijacked by white nationalists, which would be folks in prison, but
Yeah, he's sometimes very eccentric. I didn't like this guy at first, but they're news people. They like to kind of, put it on a little thick.
and the question is that where these prison guards are, or are they on the other side of this? All right, Mike King, when this all came down, we were like, there's no way that you're allowed to wear these patches if you're a prison guard. Like, you wouldn't be able to wear, whether it's a Star of David or something that would show that you're a Christian, a cross, Jesus. I don't think you would do that on your actual, but apparently it was permitted. So what are you taking away from this tonight, Mike?
That once again, expect the unexpected in these kinds of cases that we look at on court TV, Vinny. I mean, I was one who stood up on your show and said, I don't believe it. And I'm still scratching my head thinking, who made the rule that allowed that kind of whackery to happen?
I just can't get over it. I just can't. One thing Gray Hughes is right about, man, is Delphi brings out the wackos. There's no doubt.
There's a thing called separation of church and state. And the inmate deserves to know that this is a fair and impartial system.
Yes, the Salem witch trials and all of that stuff. Yep. That was James the First or James the Fifth, whatever you want to name him.
The people working in that system need to know that I don't have to share what my favorite kind of brownie is or anything else.
This guy looks pretty rugged right here, man. Like everybody's saying he couldn't kill two girls. He's just not. They're climbing mountains here, right? This. I remember when this came out. He looks pretty rugged here, man.
Else, I need to go and do a job of ensuring that inmates remain in a facility, that they're given opportunity to grow and develop and hopefully get better, but that we protect the community from them when they're in there. And I'm just so disappointed in the fact that they were allowed to do that. And hopefully when that rule came down and they pulled those off of their uniforms, somebody did a serious relook at what a uniform should look like.
And Anya and Kevin, the warden permitted it, right? It wasn't like these were rogue officers who were breaking rules there. This was actually permitted.
Yes, it was permitted. And in fact, one thing that was interesting in these new materials that came out is that it was also emphasized that these two guards happen to have very good records. They don't have records of abusing prisoners. They certainly don't have any records of threatening prisoners or trying to coerce them into making certain statements. So I think it's pretty clear that if it was...
Is that Tobe? I just realized it. That's Tobe Lesenby.
Against these, if it was against the rules, the guards would not have been wearing the patches.
All right, got some more to share with everyone tonight. And the reason why this is extremely significant is part of the evidence against this defendant is a confession. Take a look. On April 3rd, 2023, Richard Allen, and he's in prison at this point, made a phone call to his wife, Kathy Allen. In that phone call, Richard Allen admits several times that he killed Abby and Libby. Investigators had the phone call transcribed, and the transcription confirms that Richard Allen admits that he committed the murders of Abigail Williams and Liberty German. He admits several times within the phone call that he committed the offenses as charged. His wife, Kathy Allen, ends the phone call abruptly. So then,
if he admitted to her several times, I hate when they use this word several, because was it 1, 3, 6, 7, that he unalived Abby and Libby to his wife, why didn't she end the phone call the first time? Why did she wait for him to mention it several times?
the defense said corrections officers were within earshot of every conversation between Richard and his attorneys, and even between Richard and his wife, close enough that Richard would have to be worried about any conversation with his attorneys and with his wife being overheard by Sergeant Blank and Sergeant Blank or other corrections officers. Corrections officers even required that Richard Allen be positioned facing the window where the corrections officer was videotaping the attorney visits with the handheld camcorder. Richard would therefore not be able to privately discuss anything with his attorneys, such as, quote, "The guards are telling me that my wife and family will be killed unless I call my wife and tell her that I killed those girls." So, Anya and Kevin, this...
Unfortunately, I can see a juror buying this. Just my
This
opinion.
is the significance of all of this, because he's saying, or the defense is saying, this confession to my wife was made under duress and direct threat.
Yeah, I saw that. Yep. That's why they're having a hearing, right? They're having a hearing on the 19th or so for that reason, specific reason of why they leaked that and who leaked it. Yeah, I think that's real.
By these officers who had been wearing those patches.
Yeah, I think the most telling thing about that page is the associated footnote, number 15, in which the defense attorneys make it clear that he never said anything to that effect, that the guards never threatened to kill his wife in exchange for a confession, but, you know, it could have happened.
It was basically speculation on the part of attorneys. Allen, it was basically speculation on the part of Allen's attorneys, and it is important to note that this is something that is strongly denied by the prosecution in these filings. They have these guards giving sworn affidavits under penalty of perjury, strongly asserting that they never made any threats to Richard Allen, never tried to coerce Richard Allen into making any statements.
Yeah, that's where the memo gets a little conspiratorial, in my opinion, but it's definitely an interesting strategy.
I wonder if these guys have finally now jumped off of the Keegan Klein shit. That's just my opinion. Like, I mean, they're still going to push that narrative. I guarantee it.
Strategy.
Oh, it's a strategy, but you have to have a good faith belief if you're going to allege that in court. You can't drop footnotes in the courtroom. I don't think. So, Mike. So this is an important piece of evidence for the prosecution, because this is a case that, you know, directly linking this defendant. The obvious way you link a defendant to a crime is through a confession, and the jury has to believe that this confession is not coerced, that it was voluntary.
People confess all the time. It's people will literally go walk into a police station and confess to making confessions that they killed somebody. They'll literally call in tip lines and say, "Well, I did it." That's the problem with police and tip lines, is you gotta sort through these things, because some people are just absolutely freaking bonkers, and they will insert themselves into a crime they have know nothing about, and they'll say they confessed. So,
Barry, what are your thoughts about everything that's going on allegedly in this prison and him making this call? Does it have the ring of truth to you that he would confess to his wife?
Yeah, it does have a ring of truth to me that he would confess.
you know, just think about it. You have all of your freedom, right? You go to work. All of a sudden, just imagine somebody coming into your house right now and arresting you and throwing you in an 8x8 room. We just watched the Boy in the Box thing. Solitary confinement for like the first 4 or 5 days, probably, because they're going to call out the whole, "Oh, we're doing this for your safety" thing. You literally will go nuts. Some people will literally go nuts.
Vinny, and I think back to one of your guests who talked about the stressors that are on inmates and the need to kind of cleanse at certain points throughout.
Yeah, my opinion is always going to be the same. I don't think KK had anything to do with it. I don't think Tony had anything to do with it. But that's just my opinion.
About the incarceration period, I think this thing's going to really boil down to transparency and what protocol is in that facility. Is he being treated differently, and do they have a reason to justify him being treated differently, or is this the way that every inmate is being treated in there? And boy, I agree with Anya and Kevin on this concept of the defense merely bringing up, hey, by the way, this could have happened. Well, aliens could have beamed into his room and said something too. And I just think it was really inappropriate. Again, I have to keep pinching myself and saying, wait and see as more evidence comes out, because this case keeps just surprising me day after day.
Yeah, the only way that gets in front of the jury is if Richard Allen gets on the witness stand. I mean, to me, that's the only way, right?
They're not going to put him on the witness stand. That ain't happening.
It's the defense could potentially put it in their opening.
They did that to Alex Murdaugh and see what happened. See what happened in that. I mean, very rarely you're going to see a defense put their own person on the stand. Like that's
Statement, and then hide behind attorney-client privilege, as the good faith basis. I've seen that done successfully in trials, but to get it in front of the jury, it has to come from Richard Allen, because he would be the one that received the threat. And maybe, I don't know why the defense would put it out that way, but it could have something to do with attorney-client privilege and not wanting to reveal or get locked into anything that he may or may not say if and when he chooses to testify, but we shall see. All right, here's the good news. Mike King is
all right. So that's that. I've already been on here for an hour and a half. I'm going to get the hell out of here. I'm going to come on later and do more on the Kimberly Morrow case. I think so. I'll probably be coming back on about 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. I want to thank Necessary Evil for coming in. Thanks a lot, man. I appreciate it. You guys are great. Jinx, Honeybee's awesome. Jinx is awesome. Who else was in here? Going back through because I forget. Jinx is great. Jinx must have left. Who else was in here? Honeybee, Jinx. I think that's it. But anybody else who's watching, thank you. Appreciate it. Everybody have a great night. Stay safe. Everybody have a great weekend if I don't see you soon. And take it easy. And I'm going to get the hell out of here. Let me play my outro and I'll get the hell out of here. But thanks, Necessary Evil, for hanging out. Like I said, I'll be back a little later, and enjoy the weekend.